is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
This is a story that starts with something so small you could miss it if you weren't looking. Not a headline moment, not a dramatic outburst, but a passing comment in a courthouse hallway. A quiet sentence that now hangs over one of the most infamous murder trials in South Carolina history. Becky Hill, the elected court clerk who had the kind of access to jurors most people do not, allegedly leaned towards them during Alex Murdaugh's trial and said something along the lines of, "Watch his body language. Don't let him fool you." Things of that nature are the allegation. It wasn't thunderous. It wasn't overly hostile. But in the delicate ecosystem of a jury trial, even the softest touch, it can ripple. A remark like that, especially from an official tied to the court, can feel like a small stone dropped in a still pond. The ripples pushing outward in ways you might not see, but the jury can't deny. That's the moment Murdaugh's defense team is clinging to now, calling it proof of jury tampering so serious it should undo his double murder conviction. Do you agree with it? Tell me in the comment section on YouTube. From their view, this isn't about one man's guilt or innocence. It's about the process itself. A courtroom is supposed to be a sealed chamber of fairness where outside influence is locked out like a contagion. If someone tied to the judge's office pierces that bubble, they argue, you don't just tally up the damage. You assume it's infected the verdict. The law, they say, should presume prejudice when a court insider whispers to a juror about the very person they're deciding on. Which is true. That is what our system is built upon. You can't pick and choose when it's convenient to call out jury tampering or not. And believe me, it's not convenient here at all. But that is the state that they are finding themselves in, those dealing with the case against Alex Murdaugh, who's already been convicted. The state, responding to the defense's motion for the new trial and their freshly filed 182-page response to Murdaugh's push for that, prosecutors aren't denying that Hill made the comment. They call it foolish and fleeting. An ill-advised aside, but not the stuff that topples a verdict. And they've got the January 2024 evidentiary hearing on their side. 2 full days where retired Chief Justice Jean Toal heard from jurors in her annoyed way, weighed their words, and ultimately said, I don't want to deal with this. Ultimately decided that while Hill's conduct was troubling, it didn't raise to the level of prejudice. And I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to push this down the road. Somebody else figure this out. I'm too old for this. At least that's my conjecture. The state's position is built on 3 main pillars. First, that South Carolina doesn't treat this as an automatic structural error the way Murdaugh's team wants it to. Instead, they say the court must look at whether the comment actually influenced the verdict. And in this case, they argue it didn't, even though a single juror has come out flat out and said it did. It's kind of crazy when the state's going to say, they're going to ask the juror, did that affect your decision? And the answer is yes. You can't go back and go, la, 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 I didn't hear that answer. I don't like that answer. You told me what I didn't want to hear, so I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear it. Because he's a really, really bad guy. Look at all the stuff he did with finances and money. Yeah, he's a really bad guy. He's pretty much a piece of crap. And he's convicted of killing his family. But was he convicted on that under unfair pretenses? Because someone on the inside said, don't let him fool you. That could be read to a juror as someone on the inside knows more than I do, and I don't want to be fooled by this guy. That can't be part of the process. Whether it's this guy, whether it's R. Kelly, whether it's you name it. I don't care. Somebody completely innocent or completely guilty. This can't happen. You can't screw with the rules this way and then say, well, we played fair. No, you didn't. I know you didn't intend to. You had a rogue human being that decided to interject their own narcissism into the case, onto jurors, where they shouldn't do it. And then deny it until she gets charged. Second, they point to the evidence, the kennel video placing Murdaugh at the scene minutes before the murders, his repeated lies about being there, and the lockstep timing of his and the victim's phone activity. Even if Hill's comment was improper, they say the rest of the case was a tidal wave of proof, and nothing, she said, could have altered that course. Third, they note that some of the defense's complaints, particularly about the week-long parade of financial crime evidence, weren't fully objected to at trial, which weakens their standing to fight them now on appeal. Still, the optics here are terrible for the state. Hill isn't just a wayward clerk. They've got a live problem on their hands. Since the trial, she's been arrested on felony misconduct and perjury charges. Not exactly like the state is going, you did nothing at all. Get her out of here. Linked to her conduct in and around the Murdaugh case. If you're going to arrest and charge somebody for that type of misconduct on a case, guess what? That case gets a do-over. I'm sorry. It just does. The state tries to wall that off, keeping it out of the appellate equation. But the reality is you can't unsee that. If the person accused of influencing jurors is now facing their own criminal charges, it's fuel for the defense's argument that the process was tainted beyond repair. And that's the tightrope the South Carolina Supreme Court will have to walk. If they side with Murdaugh's team on the legal standard, if they agree that when a court official makes a comment to jurors about the accused, the law should presume prejudice, and the burden shifts to the state to prove that the remark didn't matter. It's a much harder hill to climb, and it could lead to a remand for a new hearing under the stricter standard. If they stick with the current approach, where the defense must prove actual influence, then the state's harmless error argument looks stronger beyond the jury tampering fight. The prosecutor's brief sweeps across the rest of the defense's appeal issues. They defend the decision to let jurors hear about Murdaugh's mountain of financial crimes, arguing it explained his motive and painted the full picture of his unraveling world. They back the admission of same-type firearms from his property, the rain jacket with gunshot residue found at his parents' house, and the decision to limit a defense in-court experiment they called misleading. All of it, they say, fell well within the trial judge's discretion. For Murdaugh, this appeal is a hinge point. If the court affirms the conviction, the murder case is essentially locked. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison while his other criminal charges and appeals play out in the background. If the court sends it back, even for a narrow hearing on the tampering standard, it cracks open the door. And if they somehow order a full retrial, it's a reset button on one of the most publicized criminal cases in history. The stakes aren't just for him. This case has become a referendum on the justice system's ability to police itself. If the court clerk's conduct, no matter how fleeting, can be brushed aside because the evidence was strong, then what messages that send to future jurors, court officers, or defendants? You can just go out, clerk of court can just make comments willy-nilly, and, well, if we get the outcome we liked, it doesn't matter what they said. I'm sorry, that's not how this system works. There are consequences for actions, even if they're actions you really, really wish Becky didn't take, because they really, really don't reflect all of the hard work and efforts that everybody put into carrying out this trial in that community. All washed away by one careless chatty Cathy. Who has a history of plagiarizing books and not being a very good writer and seeking profit out of her role in the trial. That's not about Alex Murdaugh's guilt. That's about narcissism. That's about just your own self-interest, where you shouldn't really be a part of the case whatsoever. But you've inserted yourself in it now in a very damaging way, a way that could put somebody who murdered their family back into an opportunity of not spending the rest of their lives in prison. Chatty Cathy. Conversely, if every minor slip by a court insider forces a retrial, does that paralyze the system and undermine verdicts that were, in substance, sound? Right now, the clock is running. Murdaugh's lawyers have about a month to fire back with their reply brief, and then it's on to oral arguments, likely this fall. By the time the justices hand down their decision, we'll be months deep into 2026's calendar. Between now and then, the court will have to decide not just what happened in that hallway, but what weight a whisper should carry when the stakes are life without parole. And that's the haunting part. In courtrooms, it's rarely the dramatic moments that bend history. More often, it's the quiet ones, the glance, the breath, the sentence half-spoken that linger. In this case, it's a question that echoes louder than the comment itself. When trust in the process cracks, even just a hairline fracture, can you still call the verdict unshakable? And who's the one responsible for deeming it a hairline crack? Is it really that? Or is it more like a big giant gap where you got to drain the whole damn pool and make some fixes? Does a fracture still spread until the whole thing has to be rebuilt from the ground up? Tell me what your thoughts are. Does Alex Murdaugh deserve a new trial? Should he get one? Maybe deserve is the wrong word. Entitled to it. Does he deserve it? If you think he did it, of course not. But if the board was damaged, if the game didn't have all the cards in the deck, you can't say it was a fair trial. And if the evidence stands up on its own, it should still stand up on its own. You tell me your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi if you're not already there. Make that same search wherever you get podcasts so you can listen to us on the go as well. Please press subscribe wherever it is, again, so you don't miss us anywhere. Until next time, my name is Tony Bruschi. We will talk again.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.